Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Divine Feminine. I'd like to remind everyone that the Divine Feminine is a counterpart to the Divine Masculine, and you have both of these two aspects within you. When I say Divine Masculine, I am talking about the divine projective aspects of reality, and when I am talking about the Divine Feminine, I am talking about the divine receptive aspects of reality. You have both of these aspects within you. If you don't believe me, try to either stop breathing outward if you don't believe you have any divine masculine traits, or stop trying to breathe inward if you don't have any divine feminine traits. And if you have no divine masculine traits, please stop talking, because talking is actually projecting your voice and therefore is masculine, according to this dichotomy that I have just laid out. Glad we had this talk about hyperbole, and if you don't believe that you have any feminine traits, it makes sense why you're such a terrible listener. Moving on. So, the Divine Feminine is the thing that is associated most closely with women, obviously, and it is the receptive aspects of reality. Now, I'm just going to start off by saying that when you look up at the sky, the stars are attributed to the divine masculine sphere of Chokmah. And when you look up at the sky, the blackness of space is associated with the divine feminine of Binah. Both of these are important for a beautiful night sky. However, I think we can all agree that if the sky was blinding light from the stars, then it would be terrible. And when you have black sky, it is often, also terrible. Both of these things are required for a beautiful night sky. In fact, we look up at the night sky and we see all of the planets and all of the stars and the moon, and we look up at that because of that. Now, when you have daytime, which is the masculine side, the sun is projecting the light so that everything can have life. When you have nighttime, the darkness of the sky and the darkness of the moon is concealing the sun, so you can actually see all of the other stuff. This is a very recurring theme with the Divine Feminine. The Divine Feminine is the aspect that is both receptive, but is also the thing that conceals. I mentioned in the Divine Masculine video about how the Divine Masculine increases in strength over time, because, if you work out at a gym, you're going to get stronger at the gym. Working out is a masculine hobby, that kind of thing. You become more wise by experience. Experience increases your wisdom. Wisdom is a traditionally masculine aspect according to the occult lexicon, really, unless you're talking about Sophia, but we're not really talking about Sophia because that's a whole thing that I don't want to get into right now. The Divine Masculine, broadly speaking, increases in power over time. It starts weak and gets more powerful over time. If you think of an artist, right? The artist is creating things, and the more the artist practices, the better the artist will get. This is a creative thing, but it is the creative aspect, the masculine side of creation. However, the feminine is the strongest it's going to be from the start. The feminine does not get weaker. The feminine is always at maximum power. Okay? The night sky does not get more powerful over time. It is always powerful. However, the light of the sun does. If you look at astronomy, not astrology, astronomy, we learn that the sun had to coagulate into its own thing. The night sky was always there. The blackness of space was always there from the get-go, but the sun wasn't. The sun had to increase in power, and over time, if we look at the models, according to scientists, our sun will eventually become a red giant and become so powerful it will actually burn things up, which will become the infernal divine masculine of destruction. But space is still going to be containing it. The divine masculine and divine feminine traits are very interesting, because if you look at them through the old lens and you look at them through the lens of the divine masculine is the projective and the divine feminine is being the receptive / concealing aspect, and the divine masculine is outward facing, it's kind of interesting because you look back at the old grimoires and they start to make a little bit more sense, because it's one of those things of when you attribute the aspects of being hidden and hiding things to the divine feminine, it starts to make a lot more sense as to why you go back into Agrippa and Agrippa basically has this whole chapter about sorcery where he's effectively describing women as eldritch abominations. Because, regardless, if you look at it through the lens of there is always going to be more hidden stuff in the Divine Feminine, of course the man writing this is not going to understand it. Hence why we get Agrippa talking about women like they're eldritch monsters and saying that this is why we have laws against magic. It's important to realize that the Divine Feminine is most closely associated with the element of water. If you think of it, like, the primordial waters of creation are a thing in a lot of creation myths for this reason. You'll notice that I believe it's the Egyptian myths. The book of Genesis pays lip service to it because before God sailed across the waters before saying, "Let there be light." There's also the aspect that people, as we are composite of and we comprised of the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine, see previous comment at the very beginning of this video about how communication and breathing are both masculine and feminine, the two of those being the union. Breathing inward is, of course, feminine. The breathing outward is masculine. Need I go on? The reason why it's important to understand that we have both of these is because a lot of videos on these topics are about the personal relationship with the Divine Masculine and the personal relationship with the Divine Feminine. There's like 30 different videos you can go watch. I'm not going to talk about your personal relationship with the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine. I'm certainly not going to talk to you about the personal relationship with the fucking Divine Feminine, because I don't know how to improve that, because I'm not worried about that 99% of the time. If you want to improve your relationship with the Divine Masculine, just go work out. That's really all you gotta do. Go, like, outright try to become a more dynamic, more interesting person. You want to increase your relationship with the Divine Feminine? Go watch a video on how to do that. That is not mine, because I can't teach you that. You want to know why the old grimoires keep talking about women like they're eldritch monsters? That's what the rest of this video is for. So, I mentioned earlier about how the Divine Feminine is the aspect of the divine that conceals, okay? Now, this leads to a lot of very interesting things, and I mentioned how in the previous video about the Divine Masculine, how the element of fire was the most masculine element. If you look at the zodiac signs, the fixed element of fire is Leo, which is the outright dynamic, explosive, fun party sign, basically. Well, the fixed water sign, water being the most feminine element of the zodiac, is Scorpio. Scorpio, being the most feminine, like the fixed water sign, is associated with death, mystery, transformation, sex, magic, hidden things, the occult in general, and all things that are obscured. It is also, due to a very funny correspondence, associated with blood, because it is ruled by Mars, and the color of Mars is red. Red water is just blood. This makes the second chapter on sorcery from Agrippa make a little bit more sense when we realize that, because he basically goes on to describe special blood from women as being fucking magical acid that changes and destroys everything. You will see this repeated nearly ad nauseum in any book written by old Renaissance grimoires talking a little bit about women who aren't virgins. This will happen constantly, and it happens to the point where it's a little bit concerning and a little bit absurd. Trithemius, the author of Drawing Spirits into Crystals and notable teacher of both Paracelsus and Agrippa, went ahead and had a entire section in one of his evocation manuals, which I'm going to paraphrase. If a spirit shows up to you, and the spirit you're calling up is an angel, and they show up as a woman, they're actually a demon in disguise, because no angel would ever show up as being a woman, because women are inferior creatures. I would like to point out that I do not hold this view in the slightest. I would also like to point out that this man, Trithemius, was a monk / abbot who was running a monastery which was basically an old-timey Renaissance lifestyle no girls allowed club. So yeah, that's part of that's a large portion of the reason why you will read old Renaissance things, and you will find that it's basically, if you are a woman, you are inherently evil spawn of the devil, and you must be begone evil sinners, begone women, that kind of thing. It's because a large portion of the Renaissance grimoirists were being taught by a guy who was in a perpetual no girls allowed club and was afraid of women. It's like if fucking Andrew Tate wrote occult books. So yeah, that is the reason why you'll see a bunch of old Renaissance grimoirists writing that, like, women are evil. And you'll notice that if you go back and you read witchcraft books, those are much more positive about women, but it's mostly because the teacher of the Renaissance occultists was literally in an no girls allowed club. That's really the entire issue there. Alright, so I have been Dave. I hope you enjoyed this conversation about space and the No Girls Allowed club that was early Renaissance occultism. If you like my content, feel free to support me over on Patreon. Getting quite a healthy backlog, as I mentioned before. Quite a healthy backlog. I've been doing this for a little bit now. I didn't realize time flies when you're having, I wouldn't call this fun, an enlightening experience. Let's go with that. Time flies when you're having enlightening experiences. So, I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Feel free to check me out on Patreon. If you're already on Patreon and you're one of my top tier patrons, Occultic Manual about how to enchant water for things is going to be out tomorrow, so that's going to be a thing. Hope y'all are having a good day, and if you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy.